has presence in the U.S. And one of the major thrust areas for us, as we're looking further into how we enable more Indian investment in the U.S., is looking very strongly at a state-to-state engagement agenda. We're working very closely with the National Governors Association to see how we can channelize this kind of state engagement. But over the last few years, CII has actually hosted 5-6 governors across in India, and I know Governor from Indiana also went to India, and I'm amazed to hear that you've been 3 times already and looking forward to a 4th time. So love to hear more about your strategy and how you're looking at Indian companies and engaging them in the growth story that's a win-win situation for all.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and I want to thank Anurag too for bringing us up and giving us opportunity to be in front of such a distinguished organization such as CII. I'm Jim Schellinger. I serve as Secretary of Commerce of the state of Indiana. I'm an architect by profession. I spent 32 years in private practice, and Governor Pence asked me to be on the board of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, then subsequently asked me if I'd take a leave of absence from my firm and serve as the president for 18 months, and so I was out and back, but then Governor Holcomb got elected and asked me to stay on. He's an amazing human being. He's a great governor, so I agreed to do that. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and Raju is a key part of this. He's a key part of our strategies for India, but Raju is a very humble man. He did something that's really great. He started the Indiana-India Business Council in Carmel, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis, and he's done an amazing job. How many years now has that been?
2 years.
2 years, and it's grown immensely. So it's there's really a keen sense of what we want to do with India in our vision. But a little background on the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and we're a very unique organization. And Governor Daniels, in 2005, when he was elected governor, he is now the president of Purdue University. He was previously the manager of the Office of Management and Budget here under George W. Bush. But when he got into office, he eliminated the Department of Commerce from state government, just shut it down. He said it's too slow, it's too bureaucratic, there's too much red tape, so he just shut the whole thing down. And he created this Indiana Economic Development Corporation, which is a public-private partnership. We report to a 15-person private board chaired by the governor. He appoints all the other 14 members, and we're designed to operate at the speed of business. So between myself as Secretary and CEO and our president, we are able to make decisions, and we're able to approve deals in 24 hours. We can have them on the table. So we work very, very fast, and we just ratify them with our board at the quarterly meetings that we have. So it's a very unique organization, and one that has really helped the state become as pro-business friendly as it is. For an instance, I'd love to tell the Infosys story. So Anurag and Ravi and his group came to visit us on February 20th of 2017 and talked about their interest in Indiana. I said, well, I'd love to come over to India. They called me on the 6th of March, and they said, come on over Monday, the 13th of March. That was my first visit. So I've been to India 3 times in 20 months, and I'm going back on November 10th through the 16th. So I love it. It's a great place. The governor went back in October. So I went over on the 13th, and on May 2nd, we announced the deal. So less than 70 days start to finish in negotiations. A major, major deal. Part of Infosys relocating or creating 10,000 new jobs in America in their innovation and development hubs, and the first one being in Indianapolis with 2,000 people. So I announced that on May 2nd. I got to tell you, I was somewhat embarrassed, because they said, wow, we asked the secretary to come over on the 6th to come on 13th, and 7 days later, and he was there. My wife said, boy, you thought you swam over there because, they made such a fuss about it. I got on an airplane and went, and it was a great trip, and Infosys has become like a family to us. I mean, the relationship is very, very unique in what we're doing with Infosys. But as I mentioned, what Governor Daniels did, Republican governor with majorities in both chambers of the House and Senate, they created this pro-business friendly state that attracts businesses. We had an $800 million deficit, 11% unemployment when he took office. And today under Governor Holcomb, we have a $2 billion surplus, and we have 3.2% unemployment, which is the good news, bad news, because we need to make sure our workforce continues to expand. I'd love to bring some people from India, because your economy is just amazing, growing at 8.6%. With 1.3 billion people, we're a $2 trillion economy. We're 19 trillion with 325 million. We could sure, Indiana, we are trying to recruit workforce from all over the country, and we're being very successful at that. But we have low taxes and low regulations. Our personal income tax is 3.23%. Our business income tax is 4.9%. We have zero inheritance tax, zero inventory tax, zero tax on manufacturing equipment. I heard the governor, this was funny, zero inheritance tax. He said, down in Batesville, Indiana, we have the #1 casket company in America, so in the world actually. He said, so we're a good place to live and a good place to go to the next life because there's no inheritance tax from the casket company. But we have fixed property taxes. It's done in the Constitution, 1% for homes, 2% for farms, 3% for businesses. We have the second lowest workers' comp in America. I visited with a company that moved over from Chicago area to Gary, Indiana, a 500-person forklift truck company the other day. Marty Flaska, their CEO, he said, Jim, I went, last year I spent $3 million in Illinois on workers' comp. This year my workers' comp in Indiana was $250,000. So that workers' comp is a big deal, it's real money. We have a AAA credit rating, highest you can possibly have in America. We share that with 11 other states in the union, and we have 12%, as I mentioned, reserves in the bank. We're known in Indiana, if you're familiar with the geography, we're the crossroads of America. We're right in the center of most everything. We're a 12-hour drive from 70% of the population in America. We're an 8-hour drive from 20 major municipalities. We have more interstate highways than any other state in the nation. We have the second largest FedEx hub. We're not supposed to say it's going to be the first, but they're investing $1.8 billion, and when they get it, they're going to be the first. But they don't really want us to advertise that just yet. But I just did, I guess. So we have the #1 airport in North America. It's for the 6th year running, the #1 airport. We have international ports. I never would have known this when I was in my previous life. I got into the place. They said, well, we have 3 international ports. I said, seriously, we're not even on ocean. And but we have a port up on Gary, at Burns Harbor, which is on Lake Michigan, which has access through the St. Lawrence Seaway out to the Atlantic coast. And then we have 2 in southern Indiana, soon to be 3 that are on the Ohio River that connects to Mississippi and goes down to the Gulf. So it's the port industry is a big industry for us. We have amazing world-class colleges, Indiana University, Purdue University, Notre Dame, but also universities like Rose-Hulman, #1 engineering school that doesn't have a graduate program, but #1 without a graduate program in the country. Vincennes University down in little Knox County, Indiana, is the #1 advanced manufacturing university in the country. Little Hanover University is 1,000 people. It's smaller than a lot of high schools in Indiana. Down in Scott County, just down in the southeast of Indiana, 1,000 people, Hanover College, but they can boast having graduated a sitting vice president and governor of Indiana right now. So it's a pretty great school. So, but again, across the board, Ivy Tech is our statewide community college. We're one of the few states that has a statewide community college, so it really bodes well for us. We are a right to work state, if you're familiar with that. And I mentioned we have 3.2% unemployment, and more Hoosiers working right now in private sector jobs than ever before in our state's history. So Governor Daniels, Governor Pence, Governor Holcomb, 3 Republican governors, 16 years. We'll be 20 when the governor runs again. And again, majorities, Republicans in the House and Senate. And what we are now is #1 in the Midwest in almost every economic development category you can think of, but that would matter to your business. And usually in the top 10 within the country of all those. So we're #1 in the Midwest, #5 nationally for the best places to do business, according to Chief Executive Magazine. We're #1 for the cost of doing business, according to CNBC. We're #2 for infrastructure. We rotate with Texas. Sometimes they're 1, sometimes we're 2. But the governor passed a 20-year roads plan last year in his first session to put $1.2 billion a year over the next 20 years, every single year. So we'll be investing $3 billion in our roads every year, roads and bridges and so on and so forth, for the next 20 years, and it's all paid for. So we're not going into any debt to do that. We're #1 in the country for government efficiency and transparency, which is a pretty great feat in these days. 4 for regulatory environment, according to Forbes, which right now, as we speak, Forbes has their agribusiness seminar right in Indiana. And this is the one I think is real important, #2 in the nation for cost of doing business, or for cost of living. So what costs you $100 in Indiana will cost you $115 just across our western border to Illinois. It costs you $157 in New York and $148 in San Francisco. So it's real money. San Francisco, the cost of housing is 626% higher than Indiana. So all these rankings, I share this with you, and I'm very proud of them. And I tell you, these guys have done an amazing job in their administrations over these last 16 years. And when I talk about the story, I like to think that my opinion carries more weight than most people, because I'm a Democrat appointed by 2 Republican governors and was very involved in the Democratic politics all throughout that time frame. So, in fact, that's why I got put on the board. I was the token Democrat that got put on the board, and then when Governor Pence asked me to take the leave of absence. So our industries, we're pretty diverse. We have the largest, highest concentration of advanced manufacturing in the country. 1 out of every 5 Hoosiers goes to work, one of our 8,500 manufacturing facilities every single day. It's 30% of our GDP. We have 6 OEMs, 1 from China, 3 from Japan. We're the only one that has 3 from Japan. We're only a Subaru plant outside of Japan. And then we've got GM, of course, and Fiat Chrysler. Aerospace and defense is a big industry now in our state. We've got companies like Rolls-Royce, GE Aviation, Alcoa, Raytheon, BA Systems that invest a lot of money in our state, and that's one of our target markets that we're working with, Raytheon, others, so we're working really focused on aerospace and defense. Our agribusiness is a $31 billion a year business, which wouldn't surprise you, and it employs 100,000 people. 87% of Indiana is forestry or farms. 87%, I never would have known that. It seems like more than that is developed, but it's not. Life sciences is a $62 billion industry, and several of those are in India with Eli Lilly and Company, Zimmer Biomet, and some others. So that's a great organization for us. We have 16 world headquarters in Indiana in life sciences, so it's something we're proud of. I mentioned logistics. We also have the 3rd highest capacity of rail in the country, in addition to what we talk about with air and with the ports. And information technology has really been amazing. And I know we have Imperial Wipro and, of course, Emphasis. Information technology, we're going almost 3 times the national average, and they're just coming in droves. And they're telling us 5 things. They're saying, number 1, you guys have great colleges and universities, the exact kind of people we want to come to work for us. Number 2, you've created an amazing digital ecosystem over these last 10 years with Salesforce, Aperio, as I said, Wipro, Emphasis, and others. It's a great ecosystem. Your digital ecosystem is very good in the state of Indiana, and you've invested in, I mentioned it, but you've invested in innovation entrepreneurship. That was the 3rd one. Because the governor put forth $1 billion, $100 million a year to invest in innovation entrepreneurship in early seed, and other growing innovative opportunities. The 4th thing they tell us is with the digital economy and the clash of the Internet of Things. I said, life was simpler back when I was young. Clouds only held rain. But at any rate, with all this happening and with our manufacturing, everybody's getting into the digital world. So like Emphasis, for instance, I was just with Allison yesterday. I met the new CEO. So Allison and Rolls-Royce and Anthem and Lilly, all these different clients of Emphasis that are there, as well as others. And then the 5th reason they're telling us is that cost of living, because it's about employee retention. And out of San Francisco Bay Area and Manhattan, they have just a massive employee turnover because they can't afford the cost of living. I tease and I say, when those 5 young people get together once a year, they got to decide if they want to up that lease on that 1-bedroom apartment that they have. So, whereas in Indiana, they could have a really nice house for the same thing. So, and of course, we're in the energy and in the cybersecurity and a lot of other things, but those are our 6 major industries. In terms of foreign direct investment, we have 38 countries that have invested in Indiana, employing 190,000 people, so very proud of that. Of those 38, there's 800 businesses, 9 of them are from India. So I mentioned we got Quest Global, Aperio, Axicatas is a fairly new company that has come to Indiana to put their North America headquarters. Novelis, I wrote these down this morning, MLS Wiring, Padot Industries, I pronounced that right, KPIT, Infosystems. So we're really proud of those that we have. Mentioned I've been in 20 months, I've been there 3 times. I'll be back in November. I've been to 7 cities. I've been to Bangalore and Hyderabad and Pune and Agra, New Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore. So I've been to a lot of the cities there and really have enjoyed it. As the governor enjoyed his trip over there. And we have a really great interest and a vision for what we want to do with India. The governor says you can't get to Indiana if you don't start with India. So, and of course, as you know, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs told us when we visited, Indiana, it means please come to India. So the governor talks about that quite often, and we know the difference in economies. And one of the things I would like to do on behalf of the governor is invite you to come to Indiana, and we'd love to host the CII next year at your conference. The governor would host you, so we'd love to have you come to Indiana. But as excited as I get, as you can tell, I've lived in Indiana for 58 years. I'm 58 years old, so I've lived there my whole life. It's been a great place to live, work, play, and stay. I've raised a family there, my 3 boys. It's been a great thing for us. And in the end of the day, I tease, people say, Jim, you can't grow oceans and you can't grow mountains in Indiana. And I said, that's right, but we don't have tsunamis, avalanches, or hurricanes. But what we can grow is jobs. And we grow jobs, we grow people, businesses, business communities in our state. And that's what we're about. But I can promise the companies that come to Indiana, what we do offer is mountains of savings and oceans of opportunity, and that's usually the thing that gets the businesses there. So thank you for that.
I want to just mention one thing to this group. So we invest